as soon as we get.
Recording is in progress.
Thank you, Andrew. So we are on week 55 of the Indigenous Global Unity Summit event. So we are on Thursday, June 23rd, 2022. And I start these events every week, of course, with the land acknowledgement to acknowledge those who came before us on this land. We begin today by acknowledging that we walk upon the traditional territories of Indigenous peoples, and we recognize their history, spirituality, culture, and stewardship of the land. We're grateful to all Indigenous groups for their commitment to protect the land and its resources, and we're committed to reconciliation, partnership, and enhanced understanding. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on here in the Greater Toronto Area is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Wendat, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe peoples, and is now home to many diverse peoples. We'd also like to acknowledge the land we are on is at the meeting place of two treaties, the lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit and those of the First Nations of the Williams Treaty. We thank them and other Indigenous peoples for sharing this land with us. We also acknowledge and recognize all of the world's Indigenous peoples as stewards of Mother Earth. So this morning, again, I like to say Sawubona, meaning I see you, I see myself in you, I see your hopes, your dreams, and your struggles. I see your ancestors as well, because interconnectedness does not end with two people who are greeting each other. It extends to include the ancestors. So all beings in Mother Nature are interconnected. There's no sense of being separate. I see myself in all things, and therefore, if I harm other beings or Mother Nature, it translates into harming myself. So I wanted to state the events that are coming up. First, Monday, June 27th, 2022 is Micro, Small, and Medium-Sized Enterprises Day, where the United Nations General Assembly declared this day, June 27th, Micro, Small, Medium-Sized Enterprises Day to raise public awareness of the contribution to sustainable development and the global economy. Again, information in the chat. Then coming up as well on Wednesday, June 29th is International Day of the Tropics. And so that day is dedicated to celebrating the remarkable diversity of the tropics while taking the opportunity to share the unique challenges that the tropical nations face. They state that more than 70 countries joined in co-sponsoring the UN General Assembly resolution for 29th of June, declared as International Day of the Tropics, to spread awareness about conservation strategies and to promote tropical regions on Earth. Again, more information and a link is in the chat. So the next Thursday, June 30th, so a week from now, is actually the day of our next IGU Summit event, but is also International Day of Parliamentarism, which is celebrated every year on June 30th. The date in 1889 in which the Interparliamentary Union was founded. The day was established in 2018 through a UN General Assembly resolution. And so, again, I am putting information into the chat that states that instituting the International Day for Parliaments is particularly important in this critical time for parliamentary democracy, when people are losing trust in political institutions and democracy itself is facing challenges from populist and nationalist movements. If democracy is to thrive, then parliaments, as the cornerstone of functioning democracies, need to be strong, transparent, accountable, and representative. The International Day of Parliamentarism is a time to review the progress the parliaments have made in achieving some key goals to be more representative and move with the times, including carrying out self-assessments, working to include more women and young MPs, and adapting to new technologies. So again, direct link to the IPU.org, Interparliamentary Union, and I will give the address for the Interparliamentary Union, which is located in Geneva, Switzerland, with offices as well in the US, in New York, and in Vienna, Austria. So I wanted to remind everyone again that the month of June is also International Children's Month, where the month of the International Children's recognition is happening at internationalchildrensmonth.com. So again, in the chat, you will find information about this month as we move forward through it. As well, for the month of June, we have National Indigenous History Month here in Canada. So originally June 21st was celebrated, commemorated the heritage, diverse cultures, outstanding achievements of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. However, I have a little bit of an update this time from one of my colleagues, Michael Scher, from the Indigenous Global Unity Network, who actually wrote to me yesterday on Facebook Messenger, in fact, where he actually wrote to me, Indigenous Peoples Day was started in the USA to replace Columbus Day and is on Monday, October 10th. The Assembly of First Nations in Canada and the Government of Canada made a big mistake by changing the original Aboriginal Day to National Indigenous Peoples Day in Canada. And he says this shows a lack of support and interest to unite natives in the USA and Canada, and is a political trickery attempt to tarnish the original Indigenous Peoples Day. They could have changed the name to National Indigenous Day. I am the administrator for the Indigenous Peoples Day page and claimed the main Facebook URL 10 years ago. A few native celebrities, including a correspondent for CNN, all edit the page as well. And my concern is real. I want you to know that soon the USA and Canadian natives will butt heads over this. I already talked to my team in the USA because they all know I run the page. The Canadian government and the AFN, this Assembly of First Nations, wish they had control over the URL, but it's actually in the right hands. In 1992, they marked the 500th anniversary of Columbus' arrival in the Americas on October 12th, 1492. Indigenous Peoples Day was established in 1992 in Berkeley, California, to coincide with the 1492 anniversary. 2 years later, Santa Cruz, California actually instituted the holiday legally. So he sent me an old article from last year, an important one, he says, for the history books. It's at Indigenous Unity. Indigenous Peoples Day has been established internationally. You can go to the Indigenous Peoples Day site and the About Us section and learn about the current cities and states in the USA that have adopted Indigenous Peoples Day, which was passed in many courts to replace Columbus Day. And for those interested, he sent a Wikipedia page, also has a list of states that have adopted Indigenous Peoples Day to replace Columbus Day. So there are a few cities and states that are mentioned in the main Facebook page. And he says, hopefully soon these cities and states will be included on the Wikipedia timeline. And he says history and education matter, and so does positive social change. So that was a message I got yesterday from Michael Scher, the designer of the Indigenous Unity flag. And I will put in the links he sent to me yesterday to the Indigenous Peoples Day Wikipedia site, which has more information about that. And he also sent a link to a CNN article that was published on October 11th, 2021, that states that says that states in the US are ditching Columbus Day to observe Indigenous Peoples Day instead. And a number of states have moved to officially observe Indigenous Peoples Day or some version of it instead. And it's a holiday to recognize the native populations that are displaced and decimated after Christopher Columbus and other European explorers reached the continent. And he says, most prominently, and this is from the article, President Joe Biden became the first US president to issue a proclamation commemorating Indigenous Peoples Day, writing that Monday was a day on which the country celebrates the invaluable contributions and resilience of Indigenous peoples, recognizes their inherent sovereignty, and commits to honoring the federal government's trust and treaty obligations to tribal nations. And where he said as many as 130 cities across the country have now ditched Columbus Day for Indigenous Peoples Day, and the list grows yearly. So in the chat, I have those links as well, and you can see that actually there are 10 states that officially celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day instead of or in addition to Columbus Day: Alabama, Alaska, Hawaii, Maine, Nebraska, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Oregon, South Dakota, and Vermont. And 10 more states, including Washington, D.C., have also observed Indigenous Peoples Day via proclamations, and that includes Arizona, California, Iowa, Louisiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Nevada, North Carolina, Virginia, Wisconsin, and Washington, D.C. So yesterday in my conversations with Michael, I noted actually just this morning in response to him, this is actually an extremely important story he's telling. We need to get it out into the public realm. We should consider actually to do an IGU Summit special event on this subject together with our counterparts in the US, especially in California and in Africa and globally in all of the countries of the Global Unity Network. We should schedule a special day, perhaps I mentioned to him Thursday, October 6th, which is 6 days before Wednesday, October 12th, which is of course 30 years after that Berkeley, California had established Indigenous Peoples Day. I suggested to him that we invite the city of Berkeley and all of their local institutions, including the university and all of the corporations, to also plant a tree of peace and reconciliation and raise the Indigenous Unity flag in solidarity with all of the other communities around the world, including, of course, local communities here in Canada who are doing the same thing. In other words, planting the trees and raising the flags and establishing these local INAV collaboratives and empowering their local FFHE in the support of this process of localization of the global goals and the practical implementation of these local solutions for achieving a productive, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. So as we move forward, of course, toward the next iteration of the global goals, those regenerative development goals. So the decision we have made in Canada by the Canadian government to have a different Indigenous Peoples Day, aside from the National Indigenous History Month here in Canada, seems to be coming back to the old divide and conquer mentality, the colonial mindset, and the continued deliberate actions to divide people into us and them. So it's the same mentality that we're actually trying to overcome within the communities of the Global Unity Network. So one page that I really want to start activating locally here in Markham over the next year at least or more with the people and all of our relations who live, especially in the Don and Rouge River watersheds where I am, ahead of the Markham Tree of Peace and Reconciliation tree planting and Indigenous Unity flag raising ceremonies in 2023, is to create, leverage a page, the Drawdown Markham Youth Task Force page, to be used to help establish a local committee for global action on achieving a productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind locally here in Markham. So I'm going to put some information about the page that we established actually a couple of years ago. It's not being used, but we can now move forward. And of course, as part of this opening, I want to remind everyone that we did do our 2022 Ad Hoc International Advisory Board UnityNet Abraham Project tree planting earlier this month. The event took place on Sunday, June 5th. Here in the Greater Toronto area, we did 2 tree plantings events, one in Mississauga at Meadowood Park with the support of the city of Mississauga. We donated 10 trees of 5 different species, with the second one at the Continental Dance Club with the support of the owner, Brian Torner, a world champion trainer, choreographer, 15-time world championship adjudicator, and championship ballroom dancer. So again, in the chat, you will find information about those 2 tree planting events. So as I mentioned last week, the flag and the Indigenous unity is related to the unity of humanity, which is actually far more important than our individual lives and the machinations of political leaders who just don't really seem to understand that God, Mother Nature, however you define it, loves all things on earth and everything in the universe equally. So we are beginning already to start to prepare for next year's June 5th, 2023 World Environment Day planting here in the city of Markham by working with my own city councillor, Isa Lee. I talked with her just last week. We also worked with our counterparts, of course, in Africa and the US, in California, in New York, and others, such as through the EdFu Foundation and the Africa Coaches League, Cash Community Development as well, which is a 501c3 nonprofit designed to address the financial needs of natives throughout the US, including Alaska and Hawaii. So we want to make sure that for every tree of peace and reconciliation that we plant in the world, we do have a commemorative plaque and a flagpole erected beside the trees so that we can raise an Indigenous unity flag and have a ceremony at the time of the planting, along with doing a Pledge of Allegiance from the members of the local INAP collaborative to empower the local humanitarian entrepreneurs, our FFHE, who are implementing these local solutions to achieve the global goals locally, so that we place the flag and the tree as sacred places, sacred spaces in all of our communities, as symbols of peace, reconciliation, forgiveness, compassion, collaboration, and regeneration, so that the people involved in the planting ceremonies sign this commitment to leave no one behind in their own local communities, ensuring that those who pledge to commit and support us in all of our local communities will move forward together in support of this process of decolonization and re-indigenization of the minds and physical spaces in lockstep with, of course, all of our Indigenous relatives and peoples of the world. So, as mentioned, we did our 3rd Tea Diplomacy Initiative event as well on Saturday, June 18th, Sustainable Gastronomy Day, and I will put into the chat some information about those events as well. So the most recent tea diplomacy event that we did on Saturday, May 21st, was International Tea Day and the World Day for Cultural Diversity, Dialogue and Development. So I'm putting that information into the chat as well. That was our first and our second as well, which we did on the World Day for Cultural Diversity for Dialogue and Development. So at this point, I can either start my presentation as normal, or we can have our guest speaker on if he is available.
I don't think the guest speaker is on the call.
Okay, I'm just taking a look at participants. Okay, so I will go through my regular presentation then as we move forward. And hello, Stephanie.
Hello, Lloyd.
It's been a while.
Yes,
Okay,
for sure.
so let me just start the presentation and share my desktop. Second here. So share the screen. Okay, excellent. So it is 11:30 and we are now starting in the second phase. And so yes, it was a little bit longer opening today. for all the events because of the conversation I had yesterday with Michael. It was sort of eye-opening. So today, as always, I do start the presentation by giving recognition to our supporters and sponsors, in particular Andrew Networks, the door opening network of our global Unity network, UnityNet, and these weekly Thursday Zoom calls, which are committed to take place through December 29th, 2023. So Andrew Networks also rebroadcasting production-ready episodes on the AHIABGA.org domain, redirected to the UCIT-TV site. Our logo indicates that this is the 21 to 23 IGU Summit event. We do plan on continuing to deliver these Thursday events until the end of 2023, in alignment with the UN Global Compact 21 to 23 vision and strategy. Again, chat, I have the information that everybody may want to know. So you'll see the logos on this page for the Maui Aloha Project, the 5 Points Youth Foundation, the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors, the Future Lift Foundation, Global Peace Let's Talk, the American International Education Federation, the EdFu Foundation, the Conservancy Trust, the Saget Foundation, the LA Global Foundation, as well as our own logos for the Tree of Peace and Reconciliation, and the Greater Unity Network, the Indigenous Unity Flag, the Unity 4K Clubs, the HEPTA Matrix Partnership Template of the UnityNet International, and many more. Again, in the chat, I will put more information and links to those organizations. So I do want to mention again, Andrew Networks donates our hosting and promotional support services. Andrew Networks being a brand and domain name owned by PerXTC Export Trading Company, comprising the various social media channels, including TRN TV, Universal Citizens Media Networks, Conversations with Andrew Williams Jr., and many more. Andrew Networks is not only our primary sponsor supporting the promotional ecosystem for this UnityNet initiative, the Indigenous Global Unity Summit, that continued through December 2023. Andrew is also our Yes partner, helping to open doors so that members of our network are able to discover their inner selves and passions. Andrew Networks is also working with the people who occupy the various nodes of our global Unity network so they can come together with the people of the network, acting like a net to support the dreams of our members, so they can leverage those passions and transform their visions of a better future for themselves and their communities into a reality that makes sense for both themselves and their communities, however they might define what that better future is, collectively, as they seek to work together in partnership and leave no one behind. So again, some information about Andrew Networks. So Andrew also founded the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors, Activists, and Advocates in September 2019, with a focus on localizing the Sustainable Development Goals during this decade of action in delivery on the SDGs from 2020 to 2030. Andrew did appoint me as AHIABGA representative for Canada, Francophonie, and the Commonwealth of Nations, originally published on January 1st, 2020. I was later appointed as a representative for Turtle Island in early 2021. So before I get too far, I am Lloyd Helferty, the Chief Ecosystem Director, Program Development Director, and a Sustainable Society Consultant for Energy University, headquartered in Manhattan, New York, USA. I am, however, located in the city of Markham in the Don River watershed, a German Mills Creek sub-watershed, which drains into Lake Ontario, the lowest of the last North American Great Lakes in the Greater Toronto Area in Southern Ontario, Canada, North America, also known as Turtle Island. Energym University is a private 501(c)(3) nonprofit company in New York, a member of the UN Global Compact, a UN academic impact member and partner. So Energym U is a virtual university created to help empower global populations to reestablish a sustainable balance with their local environments. We do this by designing and implementing projects that support a strong and diversified local economy while integrating core sustainable technologies and infrastructure into these communities in the areas of renewable energy, high-density food growth solutions, along with systems for sustainably managing local waste streams and protecting local water resources. Energyme is supported by over 375 companies whose products and technologies we employ. But importantly, Energyme University supports local education and training in the construction, deployment, and maintenance of all the various integrated solutions for achieving closed-loop systems that in turn support self-sufficient, sustainable communities. So in the pack, you'll find the book you see on the page right now. So I'm also the co-founder and administrator of the We Energyme Global Cooperation Turtle Island international civil society organization that's seeking to undertake life value peace education in the context of life learning gardens. Again, in the chat, you'll find a link to the Facebook page for that organization. So I mentioned I'm also designated as a Goodwill Ambassador for the 5 Points Youth Foundation in Los Angeles, with that portfolio that covers Canada, La Francophonie, the Commonwealth of Nations, and Turtle Island communities. A member of the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors, we are seeking to empower our communities to engage with Royal, Indigenous, and tribal leadership, as well as helping local communities establish these interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaboratives, the INABCs, that help come together and pledge to support all of the local humanitarian entrepreneurs who are localizing the global goals, starting, of course, with the Sustainable Development Goals, while also seeking ways to leave no one behind. Again, in the chat, you'll find a link to AHIABGA. So I am co-founder of the Global Unity Network, which is being established by UnityNet International, which helped to create UnityNet Africa and Diaspora and all the other global groups in Asia and the Americas and Europe. The Global Unity Business Group originally came together as a coalition of small businesses in order to establish, manage, and grow the Global Unity Network, which we now mostly call UnityNet. As a result of the original Global Unity Business Group, was describing as a humanitarian enterprise and global sustainable and regenerative development corporation, supporting and promoting the local delivery of open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure, set up as life learning gardens, along with a hybrid virtual learning platform we call the VCN, or the Interchange for Peace, but we're now rebranding ourselves as UnityNet International in alignment with our first continental chapter, UnityNet Africa and Diaspora. So the original Global Unity Business Group created in order to formalize the AHIABGA process of localization of the global goals, starting with the SDGs, being done with the establishment of the Global Unity Network, or UnityNet, includes the Unity Gardens and the learning networks, along with so many other dedicated UnityNet nodes and chapters, which are all important components of our network of networks. But we now describe who we are as a network of people and organizations supporting the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board Goodwill Ambassador process of localization of global goals, currently the SDGs, and the global transition to a compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. And we like also to say productive. Essentially, we are creating a global empowerment network of professionals in regenerative development to support all of the members, including the female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs who are helping to implement the various local regenerative climate smart solutions that are required to achieve this productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. So it's important to note that the existing social media, WhatsApp, Facebook, and LinkedIn groups that we are using right now are being used as a placeholder as we build our global network, prepared to eventually launch. We'll eventually get all the people, companies, and nodes of our network onto this Interchange for Peace VCN, where they'll be able to gain access to many more tools and services that are available there, where we can much more easily collaborate in order to locally implement all of the globally coordinated events, projects, enterprises, and infrastructure. Again, in the chat, you'll find some links to our social media. So the Global Unity Network, now UnityNet, was also created to showcase global cooperation for the implementation of the local regenerative solutions to achieving the global goals, starting with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So our goal is to help uplift the traditionally marginalized communities that are mostly being left behind, because the existing economic paradigm is very much focused on making money for those who are already wealthy, by extracting resources through the exploitation, the overexploitation too often, of people and the natural world. And therefore, the majority of people on Earth are mostly being ignored by our existing highly competitive economy. So our focus is thus on the billions of people who exist or sometimes subsist on the economic sidelines, where we intend to start our work by helping local communities deliver the various local regenerative and climate smart enterprise solutions that people and communities in some of the least developed countries, communities, and local economies require in order to thrive. So as the entry point, we are focused in particular on those communities that are the most food insecure. Again, you'll find these links in the chat. So UnityNet is promoting the delivery of a suite of practical solutions to achieving the global goals, starting with the 17 SDGs during this period until 2030. So we are focused on using the tools of humanitarian entrepreneurship, focusing on the female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs and enterprises, and using this hybrid virtual and hands-on education and training and learning programs, platforms, and curricula with a primary focus on delivery of the various humanitarian entrepreneurship skills training in practical settings. In other words, practicum learning, along with leveraging the various open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure solutions to remotely assist local INAP collaborative teams to establish local collaborative open source Unity Garden classrooms in all the local communities around the world. So the Unity Garden classrooms are set up in collaboration with existing schools in the local communities and can be used for the local and remote and virtual delivery of these practicum learning programs for all of our FFEG members, so they can learn to grow, process, cook, market, sell, and trade the various types of regenerative climate smart food and related nutritional and medicinal and other types of locally produced regenerative products, both within their own local communities, as well as regionally, nationally, continentally, and even internationally, in order to produce income and therefore greater prosperity for themselves and for the people in their own local communities, for all people on all continents, with again the intention and goal of leaving no one behind. Again, in the chat, I include a link to the UnityNet Smart Cities Network. So we also promote through our virtual social marketing all of the members of our network. We use all of the various practical social media networking trade tools, including those of the modern fourth industrial revolution. We are also combining the wisdom of the crowds with the deep Indigenous knowledge of both our ancestors and the living Indigenous people of this earth in order to learn from each other about how to share the abundance of this planet in order to create productive, regenerative, climate smart landscapes wherever we may live, in and around each and all of our local communities. So our intention is also to help restore nature and biodiversity and ensure abundance for all, and ultimately restore the human connection to Mother Earth as proper stewards of our one and only planet. Again, in the chat is a related link to the Unity Biodiversity Network. The Ad hoc International Advisory Board process of localization of the global goals is intended to help everyone in each of our own local communities establish local teams of humanitarian entrepreneurs, as well as the local community empowerment networks, the INAB collaboratives that provide support and ensure the success of the local cooperative humanitarian enterprises who are building the Unity Gardens. These Unity Gardens are intended to be established in each local community across our global network, most likely starting in Africa, but also here in North America and in Asia as well. This process of establishing the local INAB collaboratives is done by taking part in the Abraham Project, where we plant the tree of peace and reconciliation and do ceremonies, which started on Sunday, June 5th, World Environment Day, which continues throughout the planting seasons locally wherever we are. So some communities also established twin trees of peace and reconciliation and twinned Unity Gardens The twinning or thinning or quadrinning, as we call it, can be done through our CTP program, which is a process of twinning the local community unity garden humanitarian enterprises and also twinning the local community INAB collaboratives. So we're building here a global network of local INAB collaboratives where all the members in each local community empowerment network will be interconnected and watching over and talking to each other at the global level. So each local INAB collaborative has a diverse set of members from 7 different sectors of every community, including public, private, civil society, academic, interfaith, finance, and orange economy, or the creative sector, who are also watching, promoting, and helping each other, supporting the local female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs in each local community, where they'll be empowered by all of the members of the Global Unity Network, and where all the activities are also intended to be transparent to all of our members of the Global Network, including all members of the local INAB collaboratives, will also be accountable to those who are doing the work, as well for the success of the local collaborative Unity Garden humanitarian enterprise in each of their own local communities. As I mentioned before, this means that if the local female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs who are living in the local community fail to be successful as they build their run their local collaborative or cooperative community Unity Garden humanitarian enterprise and business, provided that are fully dedicated to making it successful for all the members of the community, and especially for those who are most marginalized in each of our own local communities. It will not be entirely on their own shoulders alone, barring some unforeseen circumstances, like the insurance industry likes to say, acts of God, but rather such failure could also be partly put on the shoulders of the local community INAB collaborative members for not having lived up to their obligations to support and empower the local community humanitarian entrepreneurs who would build, operate, maintain, and deliver all of the various community programs, events, interventions, goods, and services that would be delivered in the context of their local community Unity Garden humanitarian enterprise. I'm also suggesting as well that every community Unity Garden humanitarian enterprise also be established as a cooperative enterprise or business. The idea being to set up the local community business as a co-op so that the burden of running the business doesn't fall entirely on the shoulders of a single entrepreneur. Of course, different business models can be tried in order to determine the best model that might actually work best. Again, in the chat, I put some information about cooperative enterprise. So the INAB collaboratives are established at the local level, where we're leveraging our unique process of community engagement. So the community engagement is done initially through the planting of the trees of peace and reconciliation, the planting ceremonies, followed by ongoing community engagement and interaction through regularly scheduled events that take place throughout the year, including the coordinated bubble fun festivals and sports done in collaboration with the local INAB collaborative members. The CTP program as well for twinning community gardens and activities such as community organized tree plantings and local regenerative and public community infrastructure development projects and events. The Tea Diplomacy Initiative, the virtual community conversations on topics like peace, regeneration, reconciliation, and forgiveness, along with the Dream Boards Initiative done in collaboration with the C4 group members. We also seek to identify and engage with local talent, artists and creative people in the orange economy for the purpose of promoting and showcasing not only their talent, but especially as they promote the globalization of the global goals and the achievement of a compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. Doing so through their art, especially during any of the periodic sunlight spectacle or other edutainment events throughout the year. So any other programs or activities that may be developed in the context of the Climate Smart Gardens and Forests delivered by FBSC or otherwise, along with Climate Smart Kitchens delivered by Kindred Kitchens and Wheel of Life Farms delivered by PWT in Vietnam and USA, the Spark Learning Centers or Climate Smart Learning Centers delivered by PodNet Co-op, the global organization. So I did put the slide as well for those who have not seen it, because the local INAP collaboratives are now expanded to try to include more critical partners, potentially including Bridges of Hope organization from Kenya, focused on training the FFHEs in our various regenerative and climate smart business and infrastructure solutions. And there is a space as well for an emergency management umbrella organization. We've had some conversations in the past with BIMA International, the Black Emergency Managers Association, which we hope will help bring together first responders like police, firefighters, paramedics from the local communities in order to help prepare the local entrepreneurs and enterprises to potentially position their businesses as hubs for taking action during emergencies or significant incidents that may happen in the community. I've also included a placeholder for a virtual cultural exchange office of UnityNet Africa and Diaspora, established for the purpose of mutually supporting each of our local communities, including the FFHE and the rest of the local INAP collaborative members, wherever it is that each of us may live. Again, in the chat is the link to our local Markham and Greater Toronto Unity Network. So as we move forward, I wanted to mention again the Tea Diplomacy Initiative that we did during the Week of Solidarity with the people struggling against racism and racial discrimination, which was 21st to 27th March. In particular, I had suggested at that time we begin on Monday, March 21st, which was the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, which also happened to be World Poetry Day and the International Day of Forests. So we did this event already, which included having conversations related to the methods and processes of enabling and implementing solidarity with the people struggling against racism and racial discrimination, and discussing some of the local poets and poetry that were influential in our cultures, in our respective communities, wherever participants might live. We also discussed the importance of establishing productive forests as biodiverse 3D polyculture food forests established by Unity Forest Unity Gardens in all our local communities, managed in partnership with local Indigenous peoples and all levels of government in every local community and country, as an essential part of a process of practical reconciliation with all of the Indigenous peoples of the world, one country, one community, and one watershed at a time. So we did this event already. I will play you now a poem that was played during our first Tea Diplomacy event. It's about 2.5 minutes. It was read by a poet, Jack Black God, who is from a squatter camp, a BBC called Diepsloot, north of Johannesburg in South Africa. And before I do that, I just want to put into chat some links to our event as well. Second to do that.
We are people of our own color. 7 seas and 1 big ocean. It doesn't matter how big, small, dark, light, Christian or not you are. We all come from the same origins. Origins that when we trace footprints lead us to the central heart of Africa. Because Africa should unite and nothing will bite. Instead, we will forever have peaceful nights. Africa uniting wouldn't be bad, instead it will never hurt. Trees! Allow me to be your garden at least, so that I could plant these poetical seed into your cultivative mind with avestic thoughts of negativities. We are still enslaved by our own memories. Right now my broken, beaten bone skeleton wants to escape this flesh. My soul is rejecting this terrible hospitality when we regret or not. You see, we were never told about the secret ingredients they used to cook this system. This system was cooked with a foresighted traditional pot, but we were never invited into the inns of financial taste. All you did, black child, was to feast on that racism that was served to you on a silver platter, so that mahinya, 7 colors, the shininess of it could blindfold you. Your I have fought has made deals for dessert. But what about the main meal, black child? We are still enslaved by our own memories. See, once upon a time there was I reciting poems with meaningless senses and unengineered sentence language construction. Therapy of my words wounded so many innocent souls I'm lost in translation. Tongue clicks, Ubuntu transplant, guilty to innocent endless transformations. I'm so confused in my lost thoughts. Perhaps I'm losing it, isn't it? Yes, yes, I've been here and they've all been there, distant relatives. 300 Spartans, the rise of my ancestors to you, godly amen. The last breathless word you would inhale. We are still enslaved by our own memories, yet we are 7 seas and 1 big ocean.
So of course, now we have completed our first inaugural tea diplomacy event on Monday, March 21st, a few months ago. So during this virtual tea diplomacy event, we did ask leaders and other high-level decision makers to sit down virtually, have a cup of tea with some of our UnityNet members at the grassroots who are living in and doing work in the various marginalized communities around the world. So the conversations that we asked our participants to discuss during these moderated virtual casual conversations between the sustainable development decision makers and professionals and our grassroots members who are doing some of the on-the-ground work in the various local communities in the Global Unity Network were related to the 3 themes I mentioned shown in the previous slide. So the event was co-hosted by UnityNet International, which is building our network on behalf of the AHIABGA International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors, along with the Global Forum for Sustainable Rural Development and Global Peace Let's Talk, together with, of course, the AHIABGA International Advisory Board. So I also want to play at this point the music of Lubia M. This is a song called Rulan Lisio. It is this that I played also, and I will put the translated lyrics of this song into the chat so people can listen. It is about 4.5 minutes long. It is our new theme song for the Tea Diplomacy Initiative. I will play it as well as the poem from now on at every tea diplomacy event as well. So I wanted to mention again, our partners for this Tea Diplomacy Initiative included Andrew Networks, the World Humanitarian Organization for Peace and Equity, the Saga Foundation, Gemma Productions, Reenergizing Global Cooperation, Turtle Island, Drawdown Markham, Climate Change Solutions, Education and Training Hub, the Indigenous Global Unity Network, Carbon Shot Earth Sustainable Marketplace for Climate Solutions, the Unity Women and Feminists Network, Tots and Kids South Africa, Jafoa Uganda, the National Federation of Women Farmers and Appropriate Technology in Asia, in Nepal, TriLife Foundation in Malawi, the Soweto CSI Council in South Africa, Gemma Skaters Youth Development Program, Village Synergy in Uganda, the Global Unity Business Group Humanitarian Enterprise, and Global Sustainable and Regenerative Development Corporation, together with the organizations that support and promote this IGU Summit event, including the 5 Points Youth Foundation, EdFru Foundation, Future Live Foundation, and Cycle of Success. We will be having more pages. I will just put some of these links into the chat so people have these links to find out more information about all of these organizations. This is always a little bit of a thing that needs to be done. But as we move forward, I want to do at least 2 more Tea Diplomacy Initiative events every year, besides the one that it was mentioned, the second one being May 21st, International Tea Day. We did one already this year. This is also the World Day for Cultural Diversity for Dialogue and Development. The day celebrates not only the richness of the world's cultures, but also the essential role of intercultural dialogue for achieving peace and sustainable development. The most recent Tea Diplomacy Initiative event, we also partner with the UnityNet Culture and Diversity members, supporting the UnityNet international plans to establish unique and culturally relevant local Unity Garden infrastructure projects that reflect the local cultures of each country, city, community, or eco-village. So the third Tea Diplomacy event was also held on Saturday, June 18th, on Sustainable Gastronomy Day, where we also partnered with the Plant-Based Climate Smart Food Network and the South Markham Food Security Network, along with the Virtual Urban Food and Farming Network, or the Urban Farming Network. Again, in the chat is some additional information about International Tea Day, along with some information as well about UnityNet Culture and Diversity, along with the Sustainable Gastronomy Day. Along with that, I hope also including information about the Virtual Urban Food and Farming Expo Network, as well as the World Day for Cultural Diversity for Dialogue and Development as well. Oops. So we did our second Tea Diplomacy event. We're looking to develop more partnerships for all future events. We also want to promote local civil society organizations, NGOs, and humanitarian enterprises. So if anybody wishes to join our coalition, contact me and anybody else at UnityNet International, including anybody in Africa and Diaspora Continental Network, and we will promote your work that you are doing to globalize the global goals in your own local community. Again, I will put information about the second Diplomacy Initiative event. And I want to mention again the collaborative events that really make up our ecosystem that we do in 2022 to begin this process for all subsequent years related to the activities of the Global Unity 4K Clubs Network, the Unity Gardens Network, the Unity Eco-Village Network, and the Unity Biodiversity Network, and others, including the first globally coordinated Abraham Project Tree of Peace and Reconciliation Showcase Project for Global Cooperation that we did earlier this month. This is delivered locally in multiple local communities by members of UnityNet on World Environment Day. Just this past Sunday, June 5th, here in Canada, this was done again in the city of Mississauga, 2 different locations, a total of 11 trees planted. This allows us to begin establishing a local network that is localized, where we are localizing our communities through the INAB collaboratives, these interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaboratives, who are leading the way at the local level everywhere around the world to undertaking the various globally coordinated events that we plan to do during the rest of the year, along with establishing the FFAG teams as well. So the Globally Coordinated Community Bubble Fun Festival is the next big event that we'd like to do to allow youth and families to have fun while they learn about the miraculous properties of bubbles and how to use these bubbles to potentially allow humanity to more easily adapt, perhaps even to thrive in a warming and changing global climate, especially in those areas of the world where the impacts of global warming and climate change will be felt the most severely, including here in Canada, especially in the north, in mountainous areas, as well as in places like sub-Saharan Africa and South and Southeast Asia. So the dates for the Globally Coordinated Community Bubble Fun Festivals is between August 9th, which is the International Day for the World's Indigenous Peoples, also the International Day of Solidarity with the Struggle of Women in South Africa and Namibia, or National Women's Day, and August 12th, the International Youth Day, August 19th, World Humanitarian Day. So we are opening it up to have these local Bubble Fun Festivals on any date between August 9th and August 19th, which is really an 11-day window. So again, are some links to all of these occasions. So other key events that we'd like to take place from Global Cooperation Day, October 4th, through to World Food Day, October 16th, includes the Ubuntu Summit on October 4th, which we have done last year. The day is also the feast day of St. Francis of Assisi and the Blessing of the Animals Day, which are both celebrated by the Catholic faith communities. Again, in the chat is a link to last year's event. One of the most important events of the year is the Globally Coordinated Climate Smart Youth Forum event that will be designed to allow youth and families from around the world to learn about and discuss the various regenerative climate smart agriculture and food growing solutions that support achieving SDG 2, zero hunger, and local circular regenerative economies that leave no one behind. People attending the hybrid events will learn about the Climate Smart Food Program and all the various components of the ad hoc International Advisory Board process of globalization of the global goals and the smart virtual infrastructure, the Unity Gardens, and the Interchange for Peace, VCN, that will allow local community INAB collaboratives to gain access to all of the learning programs, the information, the education, the training, the related support programs, including the financial support systems that we've been promoting through our global Unity network, UnityNet. So these are the empowerment programs that will allow local community members and families to implement these local regenerative, climate smart, humanitarian infrastructure and enterprise solutions in the context of their own local neighborhoods and communities, wherever they might live in the world. So the primary host designated for the Global Climate Smart Youth Forum Week 2022 event is Yeli International, who's working in partnership with UnityNet Nigeria, along with UnityNet Africa and Diaspora, and many of the rest of the members of our global Unity network, as many as possible may wish to contribute. Yeli International, of course, is divided into 2 areas, youth education and leadership initiative, and is managed by Dr. Monday Amadou from UnityNet Nigeria. Again, in the chat are some relevant links to nodes of our network. The last event of the year, optional event this year, we're still in the process of establishing the local INAP collaboratives and the local teams, is the globally coordinated community tree planting events designed to establish 3D polyculture food forests in large local communities around the world, down in all the local communities where these local UnityNet INAP collaboratives are being established, where the members of the local community partnership wish to establish unity forest, unity gardens that are designed for delivering the various global unity learning programs, such as the Twikitani EV Women Empowerment Program and the Global Unity 4K Club humanitarian entrepreneurship learning programs for educating especially young people, along with their families and other community members about the various ways of achieving food and nutrition security goals, SDG 2, Zero Hunger, at the local level, while also implementing, of course, many of the other global goals, such as climate action goals, SDG 13, biodiversity action, SDG 15, life on land, gender equality action, SDG 5, clean water action, SDG 6, clean energy action, SDG 7, and peace actions of SDG 16, along with, of course, no poverty actions, SDG 1, through their local community enterprises, also aiming to leave no one behind. So the last globally coordinated community unity forest, unity garden tree planting events could potentially be done during our proposed Climate Smart Youth Forum Week, which will likely also include a hybrid in-person and virtual conference event. So the links to some of the relevant networks are again in the chat. I want to mention again the Unity Gardens of the UnityNet encourage co-learning and intercultural collaboration of what's called two-eyed seeing, where Unity Gardens are places where children are taught that no being is greater than the next, that we are part and parcel of the whole, that we are equal, that each one of us has a responsibility to the balance of the system, and an understanding that all of the world's species, including all our bio and eco kin, have contributions to make. So I wanted to mention the two-eyed seeing, or a Tuakmo guiding principle for intercultural collaboration by putting some websites again in the chat that can be seen on the screen. I'd like to mention as well our honey project, the UnityNet International Honey Project proposal, originally for the Rustly Poverty Alleviation Pilot Projects, managed by the Rustly Institute in collaboration with the UnityNet International and the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board, is designed to demonstrate the production of certified climate smart honey produced from wildflowers grown on restored landscapes, such as former mine sites or other industrial or currently degraded lands, in order to produce abundance and revenue from what was once wasteland. The Honey Project, or Unity Honey Project, is a bee honey harvesting project intended to support the Science for Peace CSF program, food certification system, and the demonstration of PEGI payments paid to producers of certified products that are produced by female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs, FFAT, especially in support of and in partnership with the local Indigenous communities. But the Unity Honey Project is designed as something that could potentially be universally applied in a number of different jurisdictions, no matter what country or continent or local community people may live. So the project ties into the Abraham Project process of integrating the CTP program for twinning or thinning the local communities into the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board globalization process, starting with the planting of the trees of peace and reconciliation and the undertaking of the local community ceremonies that help to bring together all of the 7 local partners of the INAP collaboratives in each local community, who will, from the time they are established, be dedicated to empowering the local FFHEs who work closely together with the members of the local INAP collaboratives. And in the chat is more information about the Unity Honey Project. Before we sign off, I'm not sure if our guest speaker is here. I'd like to invite our guest speaker to share. I will share a message before we do that for our system of education from a gentleman by the name of Radhanath Swami. This video is about 5 minutes long and contains many important messages about things like compassion, kindness, and integrity, inner beauty and happiness, character, values, leadership, success, hope, and love, and the understanding of a true meaning of success. Oops. Apologies.
What is happening to our system of education? It is said 50 years ago, some of the major problems in schools included sticking chewing gum under tables, talking in class, and missing deadlines. Today, our schools face gun and knife crime, bullying, and dangerous levels of stress, drug abuse, depression, and suicide. To effectively address the serious challenges that our children face, we need to consider not only the problems with individual students, but the system of education that they are.
Oui, allô?
Academic intelligence may make a child successful in the world, but compassion will make them useful. When we teach values alongside academics, we will find that children will be much happier, more successful, and will develop into great leaders that will change the future of our world. The word education is derived from the Latin word educare, which means to lead out or to bring out from within. Education is actually about bringing out the unique individual potential of every child, teaching them how to approach the hurdles, shortcomings, and setbacks of life, while empowering them to be vehicles of love and hope for the world. It is said, if you lose your wealth, you lose nothing. If you lose your health, you lose something. But if you lose your character, you lose everything. Without stressing these truths, the opposite will be understood by default. That is, if you lose your character, you lose nothing. If you lose your health, you lose something. If you lose your wealth, you lose everything. It should be a top priority of our education system to ensure that our children get this right. Imagine an education system where children are taught that the only time we should look down on someone is if we can help them up. Imagine a system where children are taught to judge beauty by what is within people's heart, not by their physical appearance. Imagine a system where character is given as much importance as competence, where children are taught that helping 1 billion people is even more valuable than being a billionaire, where as well as learning to raise their standard of living, they are also taught to increase their standard of giving, where children are taught to measure their success by how happy and fulfilled they are, and not how many letters they have after their names. An education system where developing intelligence goes hand in hand with developing compassion. Imagine Imagine if, as well as learning the history of our world, they are given the skills to change the future of it. Imagine if, as well as learning to navigate the world, they learn how to navigate their own minds. This is not an imagination. It is possible if we genuinely begin to value kindness over competence, character over success, and integrity above money. And in this way, change the system in which our children grow and learn.
So I haven't played that video for a couple of weeks. It's always a good reminder. Also, Dr. Amadou reminded us as well in our groups that the process of change is like revival. Together, we can indeed make the world a better place. But positive change begins with you and I, where everyone can start something small and still be able to create the kind of change the world needs. If each one helps one as the world goes round, it can be made free from social problems. So we in the Global Unity Network, through UnityNet International, are promoting humanitarian entrepreneurship and a future regenerative economy that encompasses the concept of collaborative entrepreneurship, a collaborative economy, and collaborative businesses. Cooperatives and such types of businesses are part of that. So the empowerment networks we are building in all of our local communities through the ceremonies of planting the trees of peace and reconciliation are intended to support and empower these types of local community cooperative enterprises and the FFHE networks and people who wish to establish and operate them. So we do believe that a collaborative regenerative economy can achieve far more positive outcomes for far more people, far faster than a purely competitive economy as it exists today. Of course, to keep prices down, there needs to be some competition within sectors, especially for those who are providing the same or similar goods and services in the same community. But we do encourage co-opetition rather than pure competition, which is a winner-takes-all mentality. We want our members to support each other's mutual success so that no one is left behind. In other words, what do in business. Again, God, I'm putting a link to Re-Energan Global Cooperation for the Island. So the Global Unity Network, UnityNet, UNAD as it's called, or UNIAD fairly soon, is an empowerment network. We are a global connected community empowerment network of local networks. UniAD and Uni are here to help all of our members. We want the local collaborative and cooperative humanitarian enterprises to thrive. This means the Unity Gardens and our female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs will secure and develop and should be supported by all of the members and organizations who are part of the local INAP collaboratives. We want to get to the table to show up at the meetings where decisions are being made in each local community. So this is really what UnityNet is about. It's being created so we have representation for every one of our members at every one of the meetings where decisions are being made, especially every time that there's a discussion about funding. So we'll be recognized for our participation. Prophet Cox, one of our members, Andrew likes to say as well, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So we also need to get the marginalized people trained and empowered to go with us. This means the youth, the elders, the rural, the homeless, and the refugees. So they should be sitting as well at the table and sharing their voice using the language of holistic collaborative regenerative development, localized to empower the people in their own local communities, especially on behalf of others who have been marginalized. So our network of networks is set up to disseminate the information and invitations to the various events so that everyone in our network has that opportunity to participate and find a seat at that table. But they must be empowered and have the confidence and must choose to sit down at those meetings. So I wanted to say a final word in connection with our global objectives. These are good, simple global UnityNet values. We want to be continuously promoted alongside the humanitarian entrepreneurship. In other words, life value peace education. So what I wanted to mention also is the Global Unity Network, UnityNet, and our members is that we do support people, our humanitarian entrepreneur members and their communities, and all our relations, not corporations or faceless entities that lack empathetic souls. I noted recently as well, our UnityNet discussions are intended to make it happen because really the next generation of children is counting on us. So we can't deny them fulfilling life with plenty if we use up the earth and all our resources for ourselves in this generation instead of thinking of them in the future. Because I don't think we really can be so selfish. That sounds really quite absurd. So I wanted to mention the Energy University Sustainable Planet Platform, which is under development, which intends to teach values alongside academic skills and collaboration, empowering young people to change the world through love and compassion and the practical skills in regenerative design. Importantly, through the Global Unity Network, what we're building is being done on the backbone of the We Energime Global Corporation Turtle Island and our original partnership between We Energime, We the World, Energime University, Global Cooperation Day. So what we're doing in Energime University in particular, taught through the learning programs delivered through the Global Unity Network and our Unity Gardens, are the concepts of regenerative design and as a professional discipline. So this means applied life value peace education, which really means a compassionate philosophy that matters as much as, if not more than, the technical skills. So this is about changing the education system because we understand that if we teach values alongside academics, we find that children and adults will be much happier, more successful, and develop into these great leaders that will change the future of our world for the better if we could just find a way to bring out the unique talents and potential of each and every child while empowering them to become vehicles of love, because love will always conquer hate. At the end, here a little link to our other groups, the Victory Pandemic 2020 original event, and a song by Omar Essa called One Love. So our primary tool, again, as a reminder, partnerships for the goals, SDG 17, as we set ourselves forward as humans, where the lessons are learned through the delivery of an embedded understanding of Ubuntu, shown to our youth by our example, where we're delivering our learning by using the tools of mentorship and humanitarian entrepreneurship. So we are a global collaboration of people who are dedicated to deploying the local solutions to achieving what's called a compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind, one that is productive. So we have a big mandate for a better future by mentoring the next generation of youth leaders. I'd like to ask everyone, please put your contact information into the chat so that others on the call have your contact info, especially if you are new to the IGU Summit events and the Global Unity Network. Please include your name, organization, and contact information in the chat, your email, your WhatsApp, social media, your websites. And so now I want to find out if our guest speaker is on the call at this time.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Okay. So that is now 12:30. It has been an hour and a half, roughly, since we first got on the Zoom call. We can open it up for short discussions among the people who are here, since we don't seem to have our guest speaker today. If anybody would like to say a few words.
Well, yeah, hi everybody. Stephanie Schuler based in Toronto, Canada. and Lloyd and Andrew and everybody on this growing team. Just want to thank everybody for their dedication towards system changing, system transformation, towards creating thriving individuals, thriving communities, and a thriving planet. It's so essential, all the different aspects that we're focusing on, especially food security, food systems learning, learning for children, immersing in the outdoors, immersing in community, intergenerational, experiential learning, and so much of the indigenous wisdoms and knowledges that have been around since the beginning of time for children, for communities to learn about survival, and not just survival, but our thriving, to do with not only our physical and practical systems, but also our social and emotional well-being. So as a regenerative design specialist, as a director of Maui Aloha Project Eco Village Initiative, and also a founder and director with Uni, with the Unity Learning Network, and also with Unity Eco Village Network, especially. You know, this is everything about the well-being of our communities, and really appreciate our time and our dedication and the presentation that you just gave, Lloyd. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephanie. And we will move forward. We will get ourselves recognized internationally at some point on a larger stage. I'm hoping where we can also bring Andrew Networks to a global audience as well. We need to get this message out, and I'm just so happy to be working with you and others, such as the people on this call.
Fantastic, thank you.
I'd like to actually recognize Prophet Cox on the call today. I've been having conversations with her as well recently, and we've had a few different ideas for things we might be able to do together in the future, and I'm hoping that she'll introduce herself as well, if she's able to, if she's listening.
Yes, I'm listening. I was having a problem unmuting for some reason. Thank you so much, Lloyd, and for allowing me to speak for a second. Anyway, yeah, it's been a good experience since I've been a part of the global UnityNet. A lot of good connections and communications. I am Prophet Anyanu Cox. I'm in Kansas, state of Kansas, USA, and I am a holistic practitioner. I am a minister, prophet, and all of that, advocate. I don't know if I'm so much of an activist. My activism happens through my spoken word, so to speak, in my conversations with people. I think I'm a bit of a catalyst oftentimes to trigger things for people to be engaged. And so I enjoy that. And so thanks to this platform, I'm also the founder and host of the Prophet Cox Show, which airs on the Andrew Network every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific time. That's 10 a.m. Central time, 11 o'clock Eastern time, and I believe that's 5 o'clock South African time, just for those who are on the continent. But so yes, we've had several conversations, and I'm hoping that we can do more around the vision board and the especially for young people, for all of us actually, to be able to hold that vision together. I think one of our other projects we've talked about, which I'm also excited about, we spoke about on Dr. Rusley's program, is doing some assessments and looking at the strengths of those across the continent. And anytime we work, if we're opening up to India, or Asia, or whatever country, to be able to look at the strengths, because we all have them. And sometimes when we see poverty and violence and a lot of trauma, it's hard sometimes for us to see, and for the people themselves to see, that despite everything they've gone through, that they really do have strengths. and that everyone, even the children, have strengths. They have things they can do that oftentimes the elders may not be able to. But if when we work from an intergenerational standpoint, we all can get this thing done. At least that's my belief. And so I wanted to thank you for that. And then the last thing I'm hoping to invite everybody to view, if we can get all our schedules together, is Lloyd and hopefully Lisa, Anise, and anyone else that's interested in the plight of the planet, not just at the global level, but at the grassroots and individual and home and family community level, as we talk about disaster preparation and preparedness, rather, because of some of the things that are happening around us in the world, in our economy. And we already know the climate has changed. We have a lot going on, but getting people also prepared to be able to, the most people to be able to make it through that, and to be able to survive and thrive even in the midst of it and as it passes. So looking forward to interviewing on the Prophet Cox Show, Lloyd, with his expertise and knowledge of global issues, his many contacts with people across the globe, as well as Lisa, Anise, and like I said, anyone else who has knowledge of this whole economic system that drives this whole engine that drives the globe, that there are a lot of things that are in common. So thank you. I don't want to ramble too much. Lloyd, I hope that covered some of them. My expertise, my specialty, my passion is mental health, and that has to do with healing trauma and also helping people to draw forth. I tend to shun away from the empowerment word, believing that we all have a divine essence within us. And so I would like to think of myself as a midwife, being able to assist people in giving birth to what's already within them, at least waking it up. Perhaps that's another word. So to put in there, just to wake up what's in them so that we can have the optimal power to move this thing forward. That means that everybody has something they can bring to the table. Thank you so much, and blessings.
Thank you so much, Prophet. These are absolutely critical things we can focus on in the Unity Gardens as we begin to hopefully begin building them in each of our local communities. So I wanted to thank you for reminding me about the human resource catalog. I did open up a draft email yesterday to send you the contact for my colleague in Montreal, Douglas Jack, to begin that conversation and perhaps begin piloting his software, the human resource catalog software that he developed. So I did close that yesterday, actually early this morning, when I restarted my computer. So I'll reopen that email and get that to you as an action item from this call. And then, of course, we'll continue our conversations about the dream boards, as well as a possible event that we could do again during the Global Climate Smart Youth Forum week in October, which could be a virtual event and discussion around emergency preparedness in each of our local communities in terms of achieving resilience, better resilience, I think, in terms of the potential crash of the economy.
I'm hoping to do that this weekend, though.
Well, we can start the conversation, certainly.
Yes,
but
yes,
I think
yes.
we should work toward a larger event, global event, if we can,
Okay.
in October.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Let's see
And
if
maybe
we
a
can do that.
dream board in October as well. That might be something we can do. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that we have the whole week between October 4th and October 16th. We can do multiple events during that week, and get other nodes of the network involved in the discussion, whether it's in Africa or in Asia or here in North America, to really have this global discussion about preparedness for a future that is very unknown, I think, at this point in time, and getting more unstable every day, it seems. Especially if you watch the news coming out of Ukraine and even the United States, I think in many ways there's an angst collectively, I think, among so many people. Who are trying to figure out what's really happening right now. So if if there are no future comments or additional comments, I don't see any hands up. There are not too many people on the call. We'll likely end today then. We would like to finish up our IG Summit for this Thursday. And seeing none, no more hands, no more comments. I guess, Andrew, we can end it for today. Would you like to say a few final words, Andrew?
Going to soccer games.
Well, no, thank you, Lloyd. I'm conducting a separate meeting, so I'm just going to end it for today. Thanks everyone for attending. I love you all, of course, and look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you, Andrew.